I'm Kelley.
Vashitta.
And Jaime.
And welcome back to NARAL's The Morning After. I'm being forced to host again.
Yes.
But the nice thing about that is it's an all-lady podcast.
Woohoo!
Yay.
Which honestly, it should be more of and more often.
Probably.
Yeah,
So an exciting thing about this week is we get to talk about good things that happened and victories and
I know.
yay.
I think the entire list is fabulous good things. So
Yeah.
yay.
Except for like the things at the end where we may not have time to get to.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So starting off, let's talk about the most exciting thing that happened this week.
So yeah, ProMedica agreed to extend a transfer agreement to Capital Care Network in Toledo, which is something we've been working on for years.
Yeah, nearly 5 of them, as a matter of fact.
And that is a very long time to be working on something like that.
So Monday we had a rally, and then a few hours after our rally, they agreed to sign it.
Yeah.
You want to tell us more about what went on and how we got here, Jaime?
So I mean, if you've listened before, you've heard us talk about the last clinic in Toledo being possibly forced to close unless ProMedica signed a transfer agreement or the court bailed them out. And we learned last week that no, the court was not going to bail them out and that the court was going to rule against them. So it really became, time critical that ProMedica signed the transfer agreement. And frankly, from the beginning of this 5-year process, it's been, I think we're going to get to that point. Either the court is going to save them or it's going to become this crisis and maybe something might happen. So really we had been calling ProMedica and doing petition deliveries and all kinds of stuff for the last 5 years. And we did this one kind of final push protest outside of ProMedica's flagship hospital, Toledo Hospital. And on the drive back, we got a call and learned that they had signed the transfer agreement.
Which was awesome.
Yes.
Because it was so cold in Toledo.
Yeah, it was so cold in Toledo. At least the sun was out. But
I'm sure a lot of women are thankful, just for all the hard work. And I'm so glad that we don't have to talk about what could have happened had they not signed it.
Yeah. So we didn't do this alone. We've had a lot of support along the way, which included Representative Fetter and Gloria Steinem and Sherrod Brown, all of these wonderful politicians and public figures. Sherrod Brown released a statement.
Yes.
What did it say?
See, if Gabe was here, he'd have it pulled up on his computer. But, with amateurs, we totally forgot to do that. We'll definitely put it in the show notes. But it was really just a strong statement that the women of Toledo need access to healthcare, and that he was there with us, even though he was not physically able to be there with us, and that he hoped that ProMedica would do the right thing and the transfer agreement would get signed. So it was awesome to hear from our sitting Democratic Senator Sherrod Brown. Of course, Rob Portman did not say anything at all and would not have said anything that we would have liked on the subject, I'm sure. But so it was just really nice to hear such strong support from him. It was awesome.
He's always been a delight.
He is.
Just unabashedly a man for choice, which is not as common as it should be.
No, it was really interesting too on when they were doing the 20-week ban a couple weeks ago in Congress. And of course, they've already started slamming him for voting against that bill.
Which is all it was destined to do anyway.
Yeah.
It was not to pass, but just to provide a target for Democratic senators.
And that's exactly what they did. But it's funny how, so often politicians who are on our side get all weak-kneed and spineless and oh, well, they do the John Kerry, I voted for it before I voted against it, or however it went.
I wonder who that sounds like. Somebody running for governor? What? No, I'm not going to talk about that.
But when they started coming after Sherrod Brown, he stood 100% behind his vote and said that he believes that women are the best people to make these decisions for themselves and that the government should have no place in it, and he would vote no time and time and time and time again. So it's really great to have somebody who is not only with you for a vote but stands behind and really talks about his values, because that's what we need out there.
I love Sherrod Brown, and if he is not reelected, I'm moving out of Ohio. So if you care about me, Ohio, you will reelect Sherrod Brown.
Come on, Ohio, don't make Kelley leave.
And I say that as somebody from South Carolina.
Exactly.
I mean, we can't lose Kelley, but we also can't lose Squish. I mean, that would, it's a double whammy.
Yeah,
I know.
So, and then we also had a statement from Gloria Steinem, who was actually from Toledo.
Yes.
Which I didn't know until I actually saw her at Planned Parenthood's event last year. I was like, oh, cool. I had no idea where she was from. She's just like this ethereal person who just happens to be American, but just generally American, not specifically Toledo.
Yeah.
So she stood behind her hometown clinic, which is good. I would hope so.
Yeah, you would but
So
yeah, she came out in support of it and was awesome, and read her statement at the press conference too. Actually, Teresa Fetter read it, but she's really been back in Ohio quite a bit on these issues recently because she does care so much about it and really has been involved in a lot of the political stuff. So, yay.
Yeah, we've been thankful for all the support that we've been getting surrounding this whole issue and everybody who's been speaking out for it. Be it like, elected officials, volunteers, those of us who work on the forefront of it, everyone who's been amazing. So
yeah,
thank you to everybody. We finally did it.
Yes. I mean, the advocates in Toledo have been working so hard on this for so very, very long. And it's so hard to,
very, very pregnant.
Yes, the very, very pregnant Kristen, who leads the amazing escort program at the clinic up there. Sky and the rest of the staff who work at the clinic, who, even after a Supreme Court ruling saying that they're going to have to close, scrambled to make sure they could get every patient in before the possibility of them closing and working under those conditions where, you don't know if you're going to have a job in the next couple of weeks or what's going to happen. And they've kind of lived under that since they filed the suit in 2013, because every step of the way you've got a court who could rule for or against you. And so it's kind of been this waiting for the shoe to drop thing for the last 5 years. So to know that, at least for now, because transfer agreements have to be renewed every 2 years, but at least for now, at least for now, we can take a breath. And
how did I not know that part of the bill? Why?
Actually, it was 1 year when they first proposed it, and then the other ambulatory surgical facilities were like, no, you can't do that to us. So they agreed to 2 years for some stupid reason.
Oh my god!
Used to just be they can exist forever, but
wouldn't that be nice?
Trap laws affecting everybody.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad though that they only speak out when it affects them. When they said that only the public hospitals couldn't do it with abortion clinics, but could do it with everybody else. Nobody, of course, spoke out.
Yeah,
but yeah.
So
we said we'd only talk about happy things. So back to happy things.
I mean, I was gonna only talk about happy things, but then I realized that this kind of relates to what's going on in Dayton too.
Yeah.
So Dayton has a similar court case going on with transfer agreements, but their court case is in federal court related to transfer agreements. And it has not had a ruling or anything.
No, they're actually, I don't even think they've had oral arguments in that case. I think they were kind of waiting to see what the Ohio Supreme Court case did with Toledo.
Okay. But so after the ruling came out on Toledo and the transfer agreement, Representative Antani, who is a House rep in the Dayton area, has come out and said that the federal court needs to rule against the transfer agreement decision and close the clinic in Kettering, Ohio, which is outside Dayton.
Yes. And
has encouraged anti-choice groups to protest outside of the Kettering clinic. So thanks for that.
Yeah.
Longtime listeners will remember our Rep. Antani is the same guy who asks me every time I testify against like the Down syndrome bill and things like that, if it's okay if women have abortion just because the baby is gay.
There are a few representatives that I dislike more than this representative, and a large part of it could be because
he takes the cake.
Yeah. A large part of it could be that he is younger than I am and he's a House rep. But I want to point out that he ran for OSU student body president and he lost. I just want to point that out. Like anytime I can talk crap about this man,
that means something. It does. Yeah, no. I mean, I would be interested too in also seeing what happened in Indiana today.
Yeah.
So another thing going on is the ACLU announced that they are suing the state on over the Down syndrome ban. So HB 214 is going to be challenged in court. This is a bill that's already been declared unconstitutional by the courts in Indiana, but the state has appealed, and that appeal was filed today.
Heard today. They actually had oral arguments today.
So you're gonna talk more about this because I'm not the policy person, Jamie. I'm just the host.
These legal issues, huh?
Yes. And actually, I was joking with the policy guy from the ACLU in the back of the room during the press conference, and we often joke around that both of us almost have honorary law degrees at this point because we work in this world so much. But yeah, so the Indiana bill is a little bit different because it was kind of an omnibus kind of bill on.
It was a bill that had been like we have two of them. So it was the Down syndrome bill and the fetal tissue bill, but theirs was as one bill.
Yeah, as one bill, but they also included Down syndrome along with other fetal anomalies and
like gender,
and race selection as well, because the
I didn't know
antis
that.
think that Black women have abortions just because they're going to give birth to a Black baby.
What?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or it could be like a boy or a girl. You don't want either.
Yeah, and then they target Asian women because they think that all Asian women are having abortions because they're having a girl and they want a boy. Yeah. A lot of stereotyping, racial stereotyping and ridiculousness going on with that whole thing. Yeah. So the Indiana bill was a little bit more all-encompassing, but so the lower courts held it unconstitutional. It's been blocked from going into effect in Indiana. So that was the first ruling, and then of course
so
the
many
state
things for one
appealed.
bill.
Yes, it is. So they ruled on it, said it was unconstitutional. They're hearing the oral arguments in the next stage of it today, so we'll see what happens out of Indiana. Those rulings usually don't come out too quickly, so it'll probably be a couple of months before we see anything. But we'll probably see something a little bit more quickly out of Ohio with this lawsuit. So it's the ACLU representing Preterm Clinic in Cleveland, the Planned Parenthood Southwest Ohio, so the Dayton Cincinnati affiliate of Planned Parenthood, and the Women's Med Center of Dayton, the Kettering Clinic that we were just talking about, are the kind of plaintiffs in the case, represented by the ACLU and the fabulous Gerhardt Stein and Branch law firm out of Cincinnati. Jennifer Branch is the attorney that's been working the Toledo case and a bunch of those other the federal case. And
cases.
yeah, they've been. I mean, that firm itself has been kind of the let's protect all abortion access all the time firm. They were also the firm that argued Oglefeld.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, fancy.
Yes, so they're the reason why.
I don't think that's how that's pronounced.
Yeah, I always.
Obergefell, I think it is.
Yeah.
Obergefell.
Yeah, something like that. The gay marriage case. Way easier to say. So they're fabulous.
Who is Hodges? Because it's always versus Hodges.
He was when the other cases were filed, the director of health.
Okay.
So the group Obergefell case was filed against Hodges because it was trying to get a death certificate, and the Department of Health is who signs death certificates. So that was why that case was versus Hodges. And then
Obergefell was over a death certificate?
Yes.
Oh my God, that's so depressing.
His late husband.
Oh no.
Yeah, they flew. His husband had, I think, Lou Gehrig's or one of those like terminal long-term illnesses, and so they flew him on a medical flight, one of those like med flight, not helicopters, but planes, to Connecticut or someplace else on the East Coast that had marriage equality already, and got married in another state before he passed away because they wanted the property to transfer and those kind of things more easily. And then they flew home, but because the marriage license wasn't valid in the state of Ohio, he couldn't get the death certificate listing him as the spouse, which was required for therefore all of the property transfers and things like that happen between spouses after a spouse dies. So that whole case was over the fact that he couldn't be listed as a spouse on the death certificate because Ohio didn't have marriage equality.
Oh man, that's so much sadder than I thought it was.
Yeah, it was. Actually, I think the woman that argued the New York case or the California case, I think the California case, sorry, was also over death.
I mean, that's going to be the way you're going to run into the most legal issues, so that makes sense. But it's so sad.
Yeah, it is so sad.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that was why that one was Hodges, and then of course we're just always suing the Department of Health because they're the ones who regulate abortion clinics. So that was why the old case, the Planned Parenthood Southwest Ohio and Kettering Clinic case on the transfer agreements is versus Hodges, and why today's case is versus Lance Himes because he's currently the director of the Department of Health.
Well, today I learned.
Cool. Although the preterm case that they lost in the Supreme Court at the same time the Toledo clinic lost was preterm v. Kasich, which was way fun.
So how do you manage to sue Kasich versus Hines?
It was, I think, part of it was because it was a single subject and he was a signer of the budget. There were a couple of different arguments in that case. Gotcha. I think Hodges was also a defendant as well, but the main target on that one was Kasich.
I feel like that'd be a weird job just to be like listed as a defendant on lots and lots of bills.
Yes. So, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, so they'll file for a temporary restraining order to block it from going into effect, because without it, the bill will go into effect on March 23rd. So we'll need a temporary restraining order to block it, and then we'll spend the next God knows however many years in court fighting that battle.
Right. And so the overall goal would be hopefully to get a permanent relief.
Yes. Yeah, to get a permanent injunction to block it from going into effect. Which is always weird when you start reading Ohio Revised Code. Like, one of the weird things when I train people how to read Revised Code on the website is that when you get a permanent injunction, it doesn't delete it out of code necessarily. It just makes it unenforceable.
It sounds like it's real hard to read the law.
Yeah. So especially with a lot of I think at this point, most of the kind of outstanding cases on abortion are generally resolved, because we had sued on the 24-hour waiting period and parental consent and a bunch of those things. And I think we've resolved all of those cases at this point. But there was a lot of time, especially in the law, around how abortions are provided, where there's a little like footnote in the bottom of the page that says this section and this section are unenforceable because of this thing, and this section is unenforceable about this thing, and makes it really difficult to figure out what the actual law was.
I feel at some point you just have to throw it all out and start over again.
You would think.
It becomes unintelligible.
Yeah, so it's a mess.
But I don't understand how the law works, and I never will, because I'm never going to law school.
So like working for the Senate, they gave us a little bit of like some courses, or not like courses, but they gave us some training on it. But then I don't understand some of the abortion part, so I can get some of that from you. And then with some of the training that I've had, like with George and some of the others who taught us how to read some of the revised code. Yeah, it's still a lot.
That's why Jaime gets paid more than we do.
Exactly.
Big bucks.
We don't have to look. We don't have to know it all. So
yeah, revised code. Oh.
I wonder, is that applicable to every state? Now I'm just curious about like the intricacies of law. No, I can't get into this rabbit hole.
No, don't do it.
Don't do it, Kelley.
Anyway, so Tuesday there was a hearing, opponent testimony of SB 28, the fetal remains bill.
Yes.
Testimony.
Tuesdays was the 145, the D&E ban.
Yes, you're right. You're the one who provided testimony, so you would know.
Yes, I did.
My point was going to be testimony was awesome. Everyone did great. There was no questions from anybody.
Yeah, they were totally disengaged.
Yeah.
Most of them, yes. But at least the chairman of the committee seemed polite enough.
Yes, he's definitely, he's interesting because he's actually voted again. He's a Republican, of course.
Rep
Nathan Manning. Nathan. His mom, Gail, is a state senator.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, so they're both there.
Is she cool?
Cooler. I mean, they're all Republicans, so there's a limit to the coolness. Yeah. But no, both she and he have voted against a couple of the bills. I don't remember exactly which ones, but some of definitely the 6-week ban. And I think
I feel like it'd be really weird to work with your parent and the legislator together alongside each other.
Yeah.
Well, the Sykes do it.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it's not weird.
True.
It would be. I could see, it'd be an interesting thing to do. A lot of them follow, like Boyd took her mom's seat, and Stephanie House is
right.
Yeah, and Christina Hagan.
Right.
The evil Hagan, as I like to refer to her, because there are good Hagans in the state legislature too.
True. You have to be different.
I'm really disappointed that the people who are the youngest people in the legislators are the ones I dislike the most.
They kind of are.
The power gets to their heads or something.
Yeah, actually, that was like something that was gonna be my continued rant about Antoni. Is he's so friggin' rude because he has something to prove because he's so young.
Yeah.
No, but
I was like, you just need to chill, dude.
I don't know if you were there or not. My favorite.
I'm gonna fight him. I'm gonna fight him.
It's possible. But you'll like this story. So
I want to move to Dayton so I can run against him. No, I don't.
No, you don't. I mean, there's some good people in Dayton. We're good friends.
But I love Columbus.
Yes. But no, when Jesse Hill, who actually is the attorney on the preterm, the case and one of the attorneys for the ACLU on the new case today, fabulous lawyer extraordinaire.
Very, very fabulous.
When she testified against one of the bills, maybe it was the 20-week ban. I don't remember which one it was, but she came down and provided like point by point legal rebuke of everything. And
It was a very
it was very, very good. But then Antani got the first question, and his question was like, "What are your credentials?"
Literally, she broke it down.
Yeah,
more than you, sir, who dropped out of law school.
Literally, when she I was impressed beyond impressed.
I mean, she just point by point. So because she graduated with her undergrad from Harvard.
Yes.
Her law degree is from Yale. She clerked for a Supreme Court justice, and then her title at Case Western is associate dean, and then 40 other
just
chair named
just you just couldn't even imagine. Yeah, exactly. It was
I don't think I was there for that.
Yeah,
very,
it was
admirable, and he was mouth dropped, couldn't say anything.
He left the room.
Yeah.
Good.
After
I hope you're embarrassed.
Yeah, he was.
He
was so
He was
embarrassed. He
embarrassed.
got up out of his chair and just walked out of the room.
That was the best moment ever.
It was the best
proud.
SmackDown. It was really good.
Yeah.
It was very, very good.
Anytime I can just anytime
you would have been so happy.
Oh my god, I would have. Anyone who can just deconstruct him.
Yes, make him shut up. That was definitely that time.
I mean, not only just shut up, but left the room. We didn't have to deal with this crap for the rest of the time because he was gone.
Exactly.
I don't know if I've ever disliked somebody that I technically haven't met.
Yeah, exactly. That's him. Yeah, just the very arrogance of him. His whole persona is just very cocky. It's too much. Yeah.
So anyone, especially ladies who want to run and date against him, hit me up.
We will help you.
Yes.
So yeah, we had testimony against SB 145 in the House committee on Tuesday, and testimony was awesome. Everyone kicked ass. Nobody asked questions.
Yes. Maggie from Women Have Options, also Michelle's attorney from that whole ridiculous case in Columbus, really, really did an amazing job of breaking it down, not only for Women Have Options, but as a mother herself of a daughter. And it was really, really good testimony. She was awesome.
And then there was I don't know that woman's name who had a miscarriage.
Yeah, Joanne. Yeah, Joanne.
She had 2 daughters now.
Yeah, she's got 2 daughters. Joanne Pickerel.
Real sad story.
Yeah, so she had fertility issues getting pregnant. So she had, I think she said 5 or 6 miscarriages before she had a successful pregnancy, and one of them ended in a miscarriage at home at 15 weeks, in which she passed the fetus herself.
Had to have the baby.
And so and how that traumatized her, and her testimony was about how if you block the access to the D&E procedure for women who are going through this, you're forcing a woman to go through the traumatic experience that she had.
Exactly.
I mean, hers was unavoidable. It happened too fast. But for women who could make a decision, you could go, be able to go in and get a D&E if this bill didn't pass. And if this bill did pass, it would stop those women from being able to do that. And talked about how it not only held with her during, just that period around that miscarriage, but then she also had what the medical community terms of micropreemie. She gave birth at 25 weeks, right at the cusp of viability. And they didn't know if that baby was going to live or die either when she went into labor so early. And she talked about how she pulled the nurse aside as they were wheeling her, and she ended up having a C-section, and the baby ended up surviving and is a healthy 3-year-old now. But at the time they were, just prepping her for a regular labor and delivery, vaginal birth. And she pulled the nurse aside and said, "I can't push out another dead baby." I mean, this trauma held with her this whole time through. So, she gave some really great and powerful testimony on how this impacts real people out there, because I think that gets lost in this so often.
Yeah. As sad as these stories are, I think these are compelling testimonies that the legislators need to hear. They don't understand the traumatic experiences that women go through until they hear them firsthand. And then maybe it starts to resonate with them. These are true stories that people have to go through every day. So you cannot take for granted what someone else has to go through or their experience.
Yeah, they definitely paid attention more. I was noticing.
I agree.
A couple Dorothy Polanda and some of the otother female quiet. Republicans, at least.
There were no questions. They were quiet.
Yeah, they were quiet. They kind of paid attention to the whole thing. But I think the sad part, it's great that she's able to. That was the first time she publicly told the story as well. She even talked, as I was talking through, she was prepping for it, prepping to write the testimony was one of the few times, or maybe one of the only times, her and her husband had talked about it past where they were, when it was happening to them. And so, as amazing it is that she had the power and the voice to tell that story. It's so unbelievably enraging that she has to. As fabulous as it is that people share their stories, it also kind of feels like
They're opening themselves up to more trauma.
they're opening themselves
It's
more trauma,
sad
but
she
then
has
like
to do
why are
it.
we having to beg for our
Right.
basic human rights?
Exactly.
I mean, share the deepest, darkest secrets, the most traumatic experiences
to get people to understand this is not right.
Yeah, to go up there and do that. So
It's just amazing
was
she was
annoying.
able to do it.
mhm,
So
yeah, so that was really amazing. and
like the
wonderful.
woman who testified today, Emily, with her daughter Nora, who has Down syndrome. It's amazing she's able to do it, but it's sad she has to do it.
Mhm,
Like,
yeah.
when will we stop trying to politicize things that we shouldn't have our hands in the first place? So
And that'll be something we talk about next week.
exactly.
So yeah, we had opponent testimony on SB 145 on Tuesday, and then yesterday we
Mhm.
had proponent
Mhm.
testimony for SB 28, the fetal remains bill. Wasn't there for that. I was homesick, throwing up, which is about how I would feel anyway, listening to that.
Yeah, pretty much. I wish I was homesick throwing up. Mine bit better. I don't know. Maybe probably not though.
But we're not going to focus on that because it was Valentine's Day. So what we did was we had a lot of our pro-choice volunteers come out and thank our pro-choice legislators. I organized this, but I couldn't be there because I was homesick throwing up.
But I did it for her, and it was amazing.
Yeah, tell us more about it.
It was great. I personally went to 3 of the offices. We first went to Rep. Ingram's office in Cincinnati. She does Cincinnati. We went in Cincinnati. I think we thanked her for visiting with the UC students last week and talked about some of the things that she's doing. We then met with Representative. Who did we go to next?
Ramos.
Ramos, yes, exactly, because we went back and forth. He was amazing. We got to talk about his. Go ahead.
I have met him before. I met him at a lobby day. I was like, "Can you hire me?" Because I didn't have a job then. But he's great. He is
great. He's very
personable.
Yeah, he is. He is very down to earth and just somebody you can probably just go out and chill with.
No, he was hilarious. My favorite story with him. So a couple of years ago,
we have plenty of favorite stories that we can't tell on the air.
Yes, but my favorite publicly available story. But they put a bill, something into the budget the last minute about how sex education couldn't talk about anything that could lead to sex. I can't remember how. Oh, and I can't remember the word they used, but yeah, so you couldn't even talk about hand holding because it was gateway. It was gateway sexual activity. But hand holding and kissing and those kind of things are gateway, kind of like gateway drugs. It was gateway sexual activity, so it prohibited
gateway drugs. Don't even
exactly. Gateway drugs don't exist. Gateway sexual activity doesn't exist. Gateways to anything don't exist.
Gateway to hell.
But yeah, he came over and before session started, and because everybody was just having a grand old time about this because it was so ridiculous, you just had to laugh.
Sex ed isn't even regulated by the state; it's regulated by the individual districts.
Yeah, because the state refuses to get involved in it because they don't want to.
Which there's people doing great work in Southwest Ohio on that.
Yes,
that I'd love to talk about sometime.
We should get them on a podcast.
We should.
Yeah, exactly.
But so he came up and shook my hand and we were kind of joking about it. And as we were shaking hands and holding on for the second that you do while shaking a hand, he's like, "Oh, I wonder if this is gateway sexual activity." But I was like, how can you think that one person touching somebody else's hand is something like that?
I have some hugs that turn into other things, but it's never sexual. That sounds weird out of context.
Very,
very weird out of context. But yeah, so no, he's awesome and amazing. He's always been a champion. He always speaks out against all the bills on the floor. Even when they come up on the fly, he's got passionate, amazing speeches against them. I don't know how he does that because I need to have way more time to prepare, but he is amazing on all those fronts.
Well, I don't really know. I don't know. I told him
maybe he has it in reserve. He's just waiting for it to come up. He's I know it's coming back.
Yeah. I said, I read your letter that you wrote on Facebook. I thought it was amazing. He's like, yeah, it took me about a week to write it.
At least he's honest.
Maybe he does take some time to actually, do this thing. But no, it was amazing with him.
And then you met with Feder?
Yes, exactly.
Who we saw on Monday.
Yeah.
Yes, he was there on Monday.
Yes. And that was an amazing meeting as well. Very, I guess, extremely.
Yes.
And we kind of all just had a powwow moment,
yeah,
if you will.
And then some of our other volunteers met with Leland and Sykes and Boyd and Antonio.
Yes.
And I think they've covered all of them.
Yeah, that's it.
Boggs.
Yes.
I'm just not last names.
Yeah, so those are all good.
We just went out and spread a bunch of love yesterday.
Yeah. Valentine's.
Yes.
Oh, cool.
So I think that's all we have time for this week because I'm trying to keep it where I'm not talking for 53 minutes. But events coming up for the Let's Get It On section. Next Tuesday, we have Stand Up for Choice here in Columbus. That'll be benefiting NARAL Pro-Choice Ohio. That's at Ace of Cups. That'll be at 8.
Calendars or
No, I'm just looking at the time because
okay.
today is actually the year anniversary of our first Stand Up for Choice. Well, not like
okay.
theirs, but like ours.
Right.
We benefited last February.
Yes.
And I made a bunch of cookies. They were very vulgar.
Yes, they were. They were tasty.
Vulgar
Though.
cookies.
Thank you. Yes.
As long as they're good.
So yeah, Stand Up for Choice next Tuesday. That'll be a lot of fun. Benefits NARAL Pro-Choice Ohio. Next Tuesday in Cincinnati, that is going to be the Planned Parenthood Action Forum. If you have feelings about candidates and want to learn what's going on, then go to that. You can find out more on Facebook. The one in Columbus is going to be the 28th of February. Cool. Next Wednesday, it's going to be the Bowl-a-thon Kickoff and Reproductive Health Happy Hour here in Columbus. That'll be at Penn's Mechanical Company on 4th Street downtown. I think that's 6 to 8. It might be 5 to 7. I don't know. You can look on Facebook. Next Wednesday, it's also going to be the Cincinnati Reproductive Health Happy Hour. That's back at Urban Artifact, and that'll be 5:30 to 7:30. And that benefits women helping women, I think.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. In the Cleveland area, we've got Bagels and Brews and Bowl-a-thon. That's Preterm's Bowl-a-thon Kickoff. That's the 24th and 25th, depending on east side, west side, because apparently that's a big divide.
Cleveland people.
And then later on in February, there's going to be a heart-to-heart conversation training at Preterm. And I wasn't smart enough to look up the date before I wrote that down.
But it's all on our Facebook page.
Yes.
So thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Probably without Gabe again. This all women podcast is pretty fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Much more laughing.
Exactly. Bye.
Bye.